this is stuff you like, and we're probably going to do a couple of episodes on the Portal series because there's just so much good stuff in there, but let's start here. GLaDOS is basically my favourite antagonist ever. Our protagonist in Portal and Portal 2, Valve's vaguely first-person shooter-esque puzzle games, is Chell, who does not speak, and wears an orange jumpsuit, and maybe also a tank top. You catch glimpses of this body you're controlling when portals align, as it were, but generally you're just a portal gun hovering in midair. A shell you can inhabit, so to speak. Chell. Shell. I see what you did there. This is pretty standard FPS stuff. Tabula rasa, blank slate, person onto whom you can project your own personality, etc, etc. Depending on the game though, it can be a little bit weird. When everyone else in your environment is talking and you're supposed to be responding, why so silent? In Portal, however, there's no good reason for you to speak, and indeed word of God is that Chell refuses to give GLaDOS the satisfaction of opening her mouth. Because in the original Portal, there's only really one proper speaking character. The turrets are mindless machines who speak sweet-voiced catchphrases while they try to kill you. Chell's mystery helper is visible only in the environment, and Portal's use of environmental storytelling is excellent, but a topic of another day, perhaps. And Chell, of course, is there, and she's you, but she is silent. Your antagonist, though, is a whole other kettle of fish. Enter GLaDOS, the artificial intelligence who wants to test for science. I love her so much. In the first Portal game, you don't learn much about GLaDOS or Chell, but there is enough to keep you interested. And many of the things that you might wonder, like who drew that stuff on the walls, for example, are answered in the interstitial comic, which is also excellent. And while in Portal 2 they go much deeper, I still loved GLaDOS in the original. And the reason GLaDOS is one of my favourite antagonists ever is because she is just so interesting. She is truly, deeply amoral, intelligent, witty, spiteful, completely off the rails, but then also, especially in the sequel, sympathetic. And this isn't an immediate process, but when you see her at the end of Portal, when you actually get into something that has a real hard time limit, her design is oddly vulnerable. She looks like a bound woman hanging from the ceiling, and that is not a coincidence. And if you don't get that or you don't notice that, then that's fine. But then you get to Portal 2 and you find out the truth, which is to say, her name is Carolyn. Or at least part of her is Carolyn, who was Cave Johnson's assistant in Old Aperture. When you first play Portal, GLaDOS initially strikes you as just kind of odd. It starts out quite subtle, but that creeping sense of unease tends to grow as you go through the game, and then she tries to kill you. But even before that, if you're taking the time to explore the testing environment really thoroughly, there are clues that everything is not quite as it seems. Because GLaDOS starts out kind of off, but subtly, and then just gets more and more off kilter. And in addition to the physical threats of, you know, her trying to kill you both in the tests and then very, very obviously, there's also the emotional manipulation. And frankly, the emotional manipulation is the best part, because the reason that I love Portal so much is that it's fun, but it's also funny. GLaDOS is funny, and listening to her try and rag on Chell for being fat or adopted or an unlikable person is hilarious, because GLaDOS has no idea how to push her buttons, but she's trying to do it anyway. And it's funny, but it's also sad. There was a fan theory at one point that Chell was actually a clone, and that GLaDOS kept putting her through the tests over and over and over because she wanted to be killed. And even if that's not true, it's still really plausible, and so kind of heartstring tugging. Now, Portal 2 is much longer and more involved than the original. It contains a whole other character in Wheatley and a whole new dynamic between him and Chell and GLaDOS. GLaDOS is still a homicidal artificial intelligence who wants to test, and it really shouldn't be possible to make her as sympathetic as they do. But they manage it, and not just by bringing her low as a potato. Prometheus stole fire from the gods, and birds pecked at him too. I really like depth in my video game world, and I love the mythology layers that they have in Portal 2 especially. And there are many Greek mythology references in Portal 2, but I think I'm going to call in some help for that one. We'll get there. Portal 2 gives GLaDOS her own character arc, where she's brought low, learns the truth about herself, is restored to her former glory, and then she lets Chell go. So maybe Carolyn isn't totally gone after all? Oh, it's so good. Let me sum it up like this. Really, truly awesome, complex, sympathetic villains are a joy. To find a female-coded one is doubly so. To find her in a puzzle-based game with witty dialogue and Greek mythology references and clever environmental storytelling, triply so. Man, I love Portal so much. When's the next one coming out? Oh, well, thanks for watching anyway. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do that. If you'd like to support the show, we're on Patreon. And if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's @GLBearup. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.